Hi everyone, in this video we'll go through how to create and manage purchase invoice in iExcel core. This is the final stage of our purchasing process where we record the supplier billing for the goods or services that we have received. From the purchase module, left side we'll see invoices. On invoices, all the invoices created will be here aligned, but if there's none, now we're going to create a new invoice. These invoice numbers have been set up. Please look at the setup video for you to get proper. We put in the contract name. If it was assigned to a purchase order that we had, and then we had the purchase order there. Once we have that done, if there's any contract, we align it to the contract and the transaction ID and date. This was the total for the invoice and the amount, and we are able to save that. Once it's done, can view that this is the invoice. You see the system can inform you when there is a debit note. Remember in our previous video we talked about debit notes. Please review the same video to see how we can set up the debit note. We can make a payment through the bank, or before making the payment we will apply the debit note. On the purchase module we go back to the debit notes, and on the debit notes we have one debit note that is open. Looking at the open debit note, we can apply to an invoice because there is already an existing invoice 001, and we can apply the entire debit note of 4,000 rands, and we can apply. Once we apply, that debit note will be completely closed and it will be applied. From the invoice perspective, the invoice that was now not paid, it acquires a status of partially paid, and partially paid because we applied a debit note on the invoice. We can delete that application if it was in error. Payment. Once we have the purchase invoice done, from here it is recognizing the payment. We do the payment of the outstanding amount, which is 20,000, because we have already applied a credit of 4,000 rands, and then select the mode of payment, payment date and everything, and the purchase, or rather the invoice, is closed. That is how we set up invoices in supplier invoices in iExcel core. Looking back at the client that we created on vendors, we will look at vendor and then the vendor that we have. From the vendor, we'll be able to see that we've done the profile of the vendor. We have a contact of the vendor. We can add additional contacts. If there were any quotations issued, we will have all the quotations issued and approved for the vendor. The contracts that we have with the vendor will be, all purchase orders for this vendor will also be highlighted and approved, and their payment status. Purchase invoice will be highlighted the same. If they're recurring, we're able to set a recurring, but this is only once-off amounts. Debit notes for the same, and their status will be shown once closed because they have already been applied. And for the purchase statement, which we can send to the supplier, can be seen here that we applied the debit note and the outstanding balance. Once we have that, we can easily print or we can email, and it will be attached to the supplier just by easily sending it to the supplier. All the payments will be available here that we do, and the transactions we do. If there are any expenses that we converted or we record expenses to this client, will be here. Any notes, and finally any attachments for this particular client will be available here. That marks the end of the purchase after we've created the invoices. And finally we have the reports. Here we'll be able to see the voucher reports that we've given out and the status of each, purchase order reports and the status of all the POs that we've issued. A purchase invoice report will be seen by the number of purchase order and the month that have been issued, and the statistics by costs and by year. that in a nutshell marks the end of our purchase module. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.